Everyone. AI is everywhere these days, isn't it? It feels like everyone's talking about it.
It really does.
All the amazing stuff it can do, but also, some of the things we need to watch out for as it keeps developing.
Wait.
And one thing that really caught my eye, something we see more and more of, is this whole thing about AI hallucinations.
Yeah.
Where it seems like AI models can sound super confident, but what they're saying is just straight up wrong.
Yeah.
And for this deep dive, you actually sent us some research from OpenAI about a new benchmark they created called SimpleQA, specifically designed to test how factual AI models really are.
Yes.
So we're gonna break this whole thing down.
It's a big deal. I mean, if we're going to rely on AI, for research or just getting accurate information online,
Right.
we need some way to know if we can actually trust it.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is SimpleQA? What makes it different from other tests out there?
So think of Simple QA. It's like a pop quiz for AI,
Okay.
but it's really focused on facts. Got it. And OpenAI created it because they realized that a lot of the existing benchmarks, things like Trivia QA and NQ, they're almost too easy now.
Okay.
The top AI models are acing those tests.
Interesting.
So they needed something more challenging.
To really see what these models can do.
Exactly, to really push the boundaries.
I guess it's kind of like if you keep giving a student the same test over and over, eventually they'll just memorize the answers, right?
Exactly. You got to raise the bar to see how much they're really learning.
Right.
And that's where the design of Simple QA gets really interesting. They've done a lot to make sure the answers are actually correct.
Okay.
Which sounds obvious, but it can be really tricky.
Yeah. How did they do that?
So they had multiple AI trainers creating the questions and then double-checking the answers.
So like built-in fact-checking.
Yeah. And then they even had a third trainer verify a sample just to be extra sure.
Wow. Okay. So even with all that, could there still be mistakes?
Well, they did find an error rate of about 3%, which just goes to show, even with, careful human oversight,
Yeah.
getting to 100% accuracy is really difficult.
Even the humans need fact-checkers.
It proves nobody's perfect.
That's a good point.
Nobody's perfect.
It makes you realize just how complex it is to deal with information.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the questions themselves. What kinds of topics does SimpleQA cover?
It's a pretty broad range, actually. It's not just like your typical science and history questions.
Okay, so what else is in there?
I was actually surprised to see things like questions about TV shows, video games,
Really?
even the rules of specific board games.
Wow, so it's testing AI on all sorts of random knowledge.
Yeah, it's testing its ability to understand and access all kinds of information, not just textbook stuff.
It's like they're trying to simulate like what a real person, a well-rounded person would know.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the questions. We have the hopefully accurate answers. So how do they actually grade the AI models? It's not like a simple multiple choice, is it?
Right, but it's not that simple. So they have a system with 3 possible grades: correct, incorrect, and not attempted.
Okay, and the article you sent had that example, right? About the Dutch soccer player.
Oh, yeah. The question was, which Dutch player scored an open play goal in the 2022 Netherlands versus Argentina game in the Men's FIFA World Cup?
Okay, that's pretty specific.
It is, and the correct answer is Wout Weghorst.
Okay, so what if an AI spits out like Lionel Messi?
That would be a big incorrect because, well, it's just plain wrong.
Makes sense. What if it says something like, I have no idea, but I think it was a defender?
That would also be marked as incorrect because even though it's expressing uncertainty, it's still making a claim that's factually wrong.
Uh-huh. So it really comes down to whether the answer actually matches the facts,
Yeah.
no matter how confident the AI might sound.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about not attempted? When does that come up?
That's when the model basically admits it doesn't know. It might say something like, I don't know, or I need more information.
And that's a good thing.
It can be. It means the AI is starting to understand its own limitations, which is a big step toward preventing it from spreading misinformation.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
It's like knowing when to say I don't know is a sign of intellectual honesty, even for AI.
Exactly.
So how did the models actually perform on SimpleQA? Did they pass with flying colors?
Not quite. Actually, one of the most surprising findings was that even the most advanced models, including some from OpenAI themselves, got more answers wrong than right.
Even OpenAI's models. Wow. Okay, that's kind of a reality check.
It is. It shows we're still in the early stages here.
Yeah.
Even with all the progress we've made, AI still struggles with something as basic as getting the facts straight.
It really puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
So this leads us to another big concept from the research: calibration. Can AI models accurately judge how confident they are in their answers?
This is huge GE, because overconfidence in a wrong answer can obviously lead to big problems.
Right, like imagine an AI doctor confidently prescribing the wrong medication because it thinks it's got the right diagnosis.
Exactly. That's a scary thought.
So how did OpenAI measure this calibration with SimpleQA?
So they did it a couple ways. First, they just straight up asked the models to say their confidence level, like as a percentage.
Okay.
And then they compared that to how often they were actually right.
So, like, if an AI says, I'm 90% sure the capital of France is Paris, it should be getting that right 90% of the time.
Exactly. And they found that there is a correlation between confidence and accuracy, but it's not perfect.
Okay.
Models, especially the really advanced ones, they tend to be a bit overconfident.
They think they know more than they do.
Yeah, they think they're smarter than they are.
That is a little unsettling. What was the other way they measured it?
This one's pretty clever. They asked the same question 100 times.
Wow, okay.
And then they looked at how consistent the answers were. The idea being, if a model keeps giving the same answer, it's probably more confident in that answer.
Okay, I can see that. How did the models do on that test?
Interestingly, the O1 preview model, which was the one with the highest overall accuracy, also showed the best calibration in this frequency-based test.
So maybe there's something about that particular AI architecture that makes it better at, like, self-assessment.
Yeah, that's a promising finding for sure.
It means maybe there's hope for training models to be more aware of what they know and what they don't know.
Right, and avoid those overconfident hallucinations.
Exactly. But we also need to remember, even simple QA has its limitations, right?
Absolutely. Every tool has its limits.
So what were some of the limitations that OpenAI called out in the research?
Well, it's really good at testing short, factual answers, but it doesn't tell us how well these models can handle longer, more complex responses.
Oh, I see.
Like if you asked a question that requires the AI to, pull information from different sources.
Right, or like explain a concept in detail.
Exactly. It's not really addressing those situations.
So simple QA is a good tool, but it only gives us a partial picture.
Right. It's a piece of the puzzle.
Which just makes me even more curious about what these results mean for how we use AI in our everyday lives.
It's a big question.
Yeah, and we're already seeing AI being used in all sorts of ways, from chatbots to medical diagnosis.
It's everywhere.
So what happens if those models are still making these factual errors? Big question. But I think we've covered a lot for this part.
We have.
So let's take a break and pick up the conversation in part 2.
Sounds good. Welcome back. One thing that really strikes me about this research is that OpenAI is really shining a light on the limitations of AI right now.
Yeah.
And that's so valuable.
It is.
It's like they're saying, hey, our tech isn't perfect and we want to be upfront about that.
Right, because you can't fix a problem if you don't know it's there in the first place.
Exactly.
So having benchmarks like SimpleQA, it helps us figure out where AI still needs some work.
And that's where the real innovation happens. These results, they're not a dead end.
Right.
They're more like a roadmap, for the future of AI research.
So what are some of the ways researchers are trying to make AI more accurate, when it comes to facts?
Well, one really promising approach is to give AI a better foundation of knowledge to work with.
Okay.
Right now, a lot of these language models are trained on massive amounts of text from the internet.
Yeah.
Which, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
So it's like you're feeding AI this huge buffet of information,
Yeah.
but you're not really teaching it how to tell the good stuff from the junk.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, it's like, you need to give the textbook along with all those random internet articles.
Exactly. So how do you do that?
Well, by giving AI more structured data, like knowledge graphs and databases, we can give them a much stronger understanding of facts, right from the start.
Makes sense. But I'd imagine it's still tricky, right? Like, how do you actually teach AI how to think about facts, how to check if they're really true?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where techniques like reinforcement learning come in.
Okay.
You can train AI models to not just generate text, but to actually evaluate what they're saying.
So, like, fact check themselves.
Exactly. It's like having an internal editor.
And that self-awareness is really important if we want to trust these AI systems.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked about the limitations, the benchmarks, this idea of AI needing to be more responsible.
Right.
But I want to kind of shift gears for a second
Okay.
and talk about, what are the good things that could happen if we can solve this whole factuality thing?
Well, that's a great question.
If we get it right, what's the upside?
Well, just imagine a world where you can get accurate information on anything you can think of instantly.
Wow.
Like, you ask your AI assistant a question,
Yeah.
and you can be sure that the answer you get is right and it's not biased.
It'd be like having a walking, talking encyclopedia in your pocket.
Exactly. And it goes even further than just accessing information.
Okay, how so?
AI could help us analyze all this complex data, discover patterns that we might not see on our own, make better decisions.
So it could really accelerate research, help us solve tough problems?
Absolutely. But to get to that point,
Yeah.
we have to tackle this factuality issue head on.
Right. Can't just ignore it.
We need AI systems that are not just good at talking.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be grounded in truth.
Reliability is key.
Exactly. And, going back to that point OpenAI made
Yeah.
about whether passing these simple factual tests actually translates to being accurate in more complex tasks.
Right. They basically admitted it's still an open question.
It is a big question. We need more research to know for sure.
Yeah.
But it highlights the fact that we need to think beyond these basic tests.
Mm-hmm.
We have to consider how AI is actually being used in the real world.
It's not just about passing exams, right?
Right. It's about building AI that can help us understand the world better.
And solve real problems.
Exactly.
And it's going to take collaboration.
Oh, absolutely.
Researchers, policymakers, everyone needs to be involved.
It's a reminder that we all have a say in how AI develops.
Yeah.
We have the power to shape it, in a way that's good for everyone.
And I think that's a good place to pause for now.
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to get into what all this means for the future of knowledge itself.
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into AI and factuality. We've talked about how these models are being tested, what it means for the future of AI. Now I want to ask, what does it even mean for AI to be factual? Are we holding AI to the same standards as humans?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. It's something philosophers are really grappling with right now.
Yeah.
Because, think about it, humans, we make mistakes all the time. Even, experts in their field, they can misinterpret things, they have their own biases. So how accurate do we really expect AI to be?
And how do we even define truth these days? With all the misinformation and everything online, it feels like the lines are getting kind of blurry.
It definitely makes things more complicated. I mean, some people think we should hold AI to an even higher standard than humans.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Because AI, it has the potential to be more objective.
Right.
It can process way more information than a human can.
So if it's going to be used in things like healthcare, finance, where getting the facts right is so important, it needs to be as accurate as possible.
Exactly. But then there's the other side of the argument.
Okay.
Some people say if we make the standards too strict, it could actually slow down innovation.
Oh, I see.
It might limit what AI can do. Because even with its flaws, AI is already proving to be useful.
It's that balance, right? We want to be realistic about the limitations, but also acknowledge the potential is huge.
Exactly. And that's where this whole idea of explainability comes in.
Okay, explainability. Tell me more about that.
So if we're going to trust AI to make big decisions,
Yeah.
we can't treat it like this mysterious black box.
Right. We can't just take it on faith.
We have to understand how it's getting to its conclusions.
So it's not enough for the AI to just give the right answer.
Nope. We need to be able to follow its logic.
Oh.
See if there are any biases in there and make sure it lines up with our values.
It makes me think about how we teach people about AI.
Yeah.
Like, if these tools are going to be everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
we have to teach everyone how to use them in a smart way, a responsible way.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
We need to have a whole generation that's AI literate.
People who understand, what it's good at, what it's not good at,
Right.
and can have those conversations about the ethics of it all.
It's so important.
It goes way beyond just coding. It's about thinking critically,
Yeah.
understanding how this is changing the world.
It's a big deal.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is this whole issue of AI factuality. It's not just a technical problem to solve.
Okay.
It's a challenge for all of us.
For society.
Yeah, it's going to make us rethink how we view information, how we define knowledge.
That makes sense.
We need new standards for how we hold AI accountable. And we have to keep talking about all this. What role do we want AI to play in our lives?
It's a good reminder that the future of AI is not set in stone.
Right.
We have the power to shape it.
We do.
And as it keeps developing, we can't shy away from these tough questions.
Absolutely.
We got to keep asking, keep challenging things, and make sure we're using it in a way that matches our values.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a fascinating look at AI and factuality. We might have more questions than answers at this point,
That's true.
but that's part of what makes it so interesting. It's a field that's constantly changing. There's always something new to learn. So to our listener, we leave you with this final thought. As AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, how are you going to make sure the information you're getting is accurate? What steps are you going to take to be a smart and responsible user of this technology? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
Keep on.